Ladies and gentlemen, we are in fact recording, and it is January 19th, 2016. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 278, where we learn to be better artists. My name is Keenan Lafferty, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial on the animation cell technique featuring Nuclear Girl. And this is part 2 of a series, so if you'd like to go back and see how we started this piece, then just go ahead and click on that picture. It'll take you back to more something like this, but yeah, just click this general direction, take you back a week, and you can watch that episode there. But yes, today we are talking about the animation cell technique and how we got to this point right here, and we're going to be focusing a little bit more on getting to this point right here, because this is a very, very important part that sets us up properly. And just to kind of quickly show you what I'm talking about, if you direct your attention down here to the layers, you'll notice that we have line art right here. We have line art, and if we take this away, she all of a sudden becomes this crazy looking ghost woman, demented and actually kind of scary. That looks like a tiki mask or a totem pole. Become a totem pole woman. And then you have all of these layers that as you take them away, you eventually just get back to the mask, the character mask, right? This is our silhouette, and basically placing the lines over top of that brings it all together. And we're going to be talking about how we use layers and use the animation cell technique. The reason why it's called that is because our line art is in front, and then we are taking our canvas, or we're taking our picture, popping it out of Photoshop, turning it around and painting behind those lines. Painting behind those lines, laying in all these different colors that eventually get us to a point where we are happy. Then we color the lines, right? We learned a little bit about line coloring. I think did we talk about that last episode? Oh, well, we'll talk about it again here as well. We'll put in a little bit of line coloring to soften things up, and then eventually we go into overpaints, okay? But before we get into all that, right, that's just the synopsis. Before we get into all that good stuff, we need to take a stroll down a very special place, and that is, of course, the lovely Lane, because you guys have been submitting your beautiful art. Thank you guys so much for submitting stuff to the Facebook. If you would like to go check out all these awesome pieces for yourself, just type in that tiny URL /KNKL fan art, like the page, submit your art, get featured. That could be you right there. That could be you right there scrolling past. And yes, have a good time with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. Oh yeah, and of course the most important part, totally forgot, I have a time lapse for you. I have a time lapse indeed for you to watch, and in the meantime, I'll be talking about my process and my thoughts basically going into it. Okay, so this is the entertainment part, so just kick back, right? Put your feet up, enjoy some hot cocoa. I don't know if it's still snowing where you are from. It's still snowing here. The snow is finally starting to melt off, and it's getting warmer outside. But just in case you are watching from the top of Mount Everest, then yes, pull out your hot cocoa, kind of nail your sleeping bag to the side of the mountain, and relax. I know you're dangling for thousands of feet in the air, and you could die at any moment, but right now it's time for a little bit of entertainment, okay? So I'd appreciate it if you respect that, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so you guys are seeing right here, immediately I have laid out my lines, and I'm beginning to drop in the color, right? I'm doing the animation cell technique. We're dropping all of the things behind it, all of the colors behind it. And just so you guys know, yes, I have shown you guys how to sketch lift. I showed you guys how to do that. And we'll go into detail and all that stuff later. Yeah, but I'm just starting out with flat colors. And you'll notice that if you look at all the layers, there's like things like iris, hair, silver, shorts. I'm separating out all of my masks, all of my different colors, by basically the material that they're going to be using, right? And then what I start doing is I go in there one by one and I say, okay, let's focus on adding some shading. Let's add some extra colors into the skin area. Then we get like a skin tone that we like. And I like to light all of my characters from the front, just in general, because it's very easy. It's very easy to just start with like a front ambient light. That way you think of any plane that's facing directly at you. That's how, basically, like, look at this. Like, the closest point, or all the planes that are facing directly at you, is what is going to receive the most light, okay? We'll talk a little bit more of that as we go into the actual thing. And I'm going to write that down. Planes. Let's talk about planes. So I go through here, and really why the cool part about doing the animation cell technique is really the simplicity. Right? Because you've already done the line work, and you've already got a lot of your values in here. If you guys notice, like all those shadows in the jacket And even a lot of the tones on the skin, like you see up in the collarbones and in the face, a lot of those subtle values have already been added in there. And then we go in and we're going to begin line coloring. So you're going to see me go through here and I'm going to begin actually coloring the lines. And that is this layer right here. See, it's layer 16 above layer 15, right? If I was awesome, I should have named them like lines and then line color, but I will show that to you guys as well. And what we do is we go through there and we begin coloring the lines. And that allows us to soften them and get it ready for our good old overpainting. And that is tons of fun. Oh yeah, and I put a bunch of dirt on her face. That is something that we are going to be moving into probably next week. Next week we're going to be talking about adding those fine details. But for right now, I just wanted to put a bunch of dirt on her. Kind of give her like a Tomb Raider feel. You know how she has like all that dirt and kind of like mud and stuff on her. Makes her actually look a little bit more realistic as opposed to like this, you know, like scantily clad Victoria's Secret model with a battle bra. Of course, you got to love that tactical bra. That's probably my favorite part about this. And my girlfriend would agree if you asked her about it. She said she'd obviously wear one of those, and I can't blame her. I mean, it's freaking awesome. I designed it. I'm a professional. I should be designing bras for Victoria's Secret, right? I should be doing that. But anyway, that's another story for another time. Let's go ahead and continue with this. Okay, cool. So yeah, just putting on all this dirt. We're going to get to that later. I'm going to go ahead and skip past that. Now we're moving into the overpaints. Okay, so what I'm going to do actually right here, I'm going to pause that. We're going to go back to the animation cells. Okay, let's start out with that, okay? Let's start out with that. So let's close this down. We don't need that anymore. Let's talk about animation cell technique. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of all this stuff, and let's go ahead and duplicate these lines because I want to show you guys basically where you're going to be starting when you get to this point, okay? So let's go ahead and take away all of this. So this is where we left off last week. You have beautiful line art, black and white, and it has been sketch lifted. And if you guys don't know what that is, then you can definitely click the picture right now to go back to the technique, or go back to the episode where we talk about sketch lifting. Basically, it has to do with creating a piece that is all black and white, right? Like say it was black and white, like this. And let's go ahead and flatten it. Actually, I guess I could show you really quick. I'll just show you too. You can go back and click the thing to go see it, but I'll show it to you right now. Okay, so basically you have this black and white picture, right? But then the problem arises where you want to darken or you want to paint behind it, but see like it's all on one layer. So what we want to do is we want to lift the black lines out of it. So here's how you do that in a nutshell. You go down to your layers tab, right, down here, click channels, and then you click this magical button down here that looks like a box, like a dotted box, right? As if you were to draw one in the air with your fingers. And what would appear there? None other than that magic box. Okay, so you click that button, go back to layers, and hit Shift-Control-I. Okay, after you do that, go ahead and just get rid of everything. And then you'll notice that you have like this interesting marching ant looking version of your picture. And if you go to Edit Fill, or you have to make a new layer, and you go to Edit Fill, what the heck happened? Why did that, is it, oh, it's clipped, dang it. Okay, there we go, Edit Fill. Okay, so there you go, there's a lifted version of your piece. And that is very important because, here, let me demonstrate this to you. Because now, see, now all of your lines are lifted and everything is see-through. And that is the most important part of the animation cell technique, because now you can go back here and you can lay in colors behind your lines, and you can simultaneously control whatever color you want your lines to be. Very nice. That's going to come in handy. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to where we were. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about separating out each color. Each color is very important to separate out. Okay, so the reason why is because, like I said, if we take all this away, this is what we see. This is the skin layer, actually. And notice how it's actually just a bunch of soft changes. This is a bunch of soft changes that we've made in the areas where the skin actually exists. And then we lay that on top, and, well, doesn't that look nice, you know? But let's go ahead and move up. I actually ended up darkening her skin a little bit because I wanted to have a nice contrast with her bright hair. Bright hair. I'm a big fan of contrast, and if we find the hair, first off, there we go. So we have this dark tan skin and then this platinum blonde hair. Looks really cool. And each of these things, as we lay them on top, you can see that they are all separated out. Different colors, different masks. Okay? And then we have the gray one. And notice how they all have this arrow pointing back. They're all pointing back to this original layer right here, layer 14, which we also can call the silhouette. Because if we actually take all this stuff away, whoops, actually that's not going to work. Well, you guys saw, if we took it all away, it is actually just a silhouette of our character. It is just a silhouette of our character if we were to darken it down. See that? Right there. So clipping it back, clipping all of those colors back, allows you to basically not worry about going out of the silhouette anymore. That's why it's clipped back like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so in fact, I will take off the lines just so you can see exactly how these masks work. Okay, so, and speaking of clipping masks, let me just do a quick example of that. So see how the coat right here, it totally, everything fits in, right? But if I unclip this, see how there's like extra bits that go outside of the lines, outside of our silhouette, and if we put this on, see how it doesn't work there? Well, if you clip it back by holding Alt, right? Holding Alt and then going between the layers, see how that icon changes? That allows you to clip it back. An alternate method to doing this is just right-clicking, say like this brown one, and then create clipping mask, okay? And then you do that with all of your layers, right? Clip them all back to that original silhouette, and then you will have a beautiful piece. You will be working in layers, ladies and gentlemen, and that is just so fine, so dandy. Gotta love it. Okay, so you've done that. You've separated out all your elements. You've separated out all your colors. Now what the next cool part happens. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, that we wanted to change your hair color. Let's say that we originally painted the mask here a dark red, okay? Say we wanted to give her like pink hair, okay? Well, because we're awesome, and we separated out all our colors, and I'm actually going to duplicate these lines too, because a lot of these lines are colored. That's why it looks weird, like you see some lighter spots in her hair. Let's go ahead and darken these lines all down to black, which is basically what you would be working with in the very beginning. Okay, back to what we were saying. We got pink hair, right? Pink hair. So because, also another thing, before you work on any of these layers, it is imperative that you click this magical button right here, the checkerboard, right there. Click that. And then what that allows you to do is it allows you to work on that layer and that layer only. So you can go in there and say, okay, I want a little bit of lightness here, I want a little bit of lightness there. But the problem arises when you start getting into these muddy colors, which basically happen when you mix colorful, obviously like colors, with your black lines. And this is the next part that I want to talk to you guys about, the most important part, and that is line coloring. Line coloring is going to be, okay, so I totally just went ahead and I didn't tell you what I did. Okay, so, and I will label these so they will help. So you got your lines, right? Your line layer. When you turn it off, she turns into a tiki person. That's how you know you got it. Okay, so you got your lines. Create a new layer above that, okay? And then originally this would not be clipped back, okay? But let's see, line color. Create a new layer above your lines, and then you're gonna do that same thing. Hold Alt, and then wait until that little icon appears, and clip it back to your lines. Now, similarly to how all of our masks adhere to our silhouette, all of the colors that you put down here will adhere to your lines only, okay? So here's an example. So check this out. So I picked this very, very dark red. And I will tell you that working with dark colors here more than light colors works better. More often start with dark colors, okay? So we're gonna start with this dark red. We're gonna start adding this red into our lines. We're literally painting those lines red. And you notice how that immediately starts to not only soften the lines, but it starts to give our hair a more natural look. It takes away the muddy colors. It takes them away to a far-off land where we don't have to see them anymore. Because let's be honest, nobody likes muddy colors. Nobody likes that stuff. It's an amateur thing. Get that amateur crap out of here, okay? Nobody wants to see that. Okay, so, and then specifically, as you zoom in closer, you'll notice that, okay, this helps, but in these areas where it gets very bright, you're gonna want to lighten again. Now you can start going to the lighter colors right in here. And then go ahead and add those colors into here. And this is gonna give you what we like to call in the art world a good start. A good start. Actually, I just made that up. But it gives you a good start, okay? Gives you a good start on your work, and you can see now the difference between that and that. See, now that hair has so much more life to it. Feels so much more, it's softened the lines and it's taken away our muddy colors. Now imagine what would happen if you did that to the entire piece. Well, maybe it would look something like this. See? So really what this is we have gone through the skin. Let's take a look at the color that we use for the skin. See, it's like this dark brown, right? In the eyes, still not completely black and even darker brown. Basically what I like to think about when I'm line coloring is it's a darker color of whatever color is around it, right? So this one's easy. It's like a gray, right? So the color would be darker gray or black. This one is, we're working with gray here, so our color, can you guess it? Oh, it moves, well, I mean, it kind of becomes more red. And you can hue shift. It doesn't always have to follow that exact, formula. Sometimes you can have a hue shift here. Like, see, we're in like the purples, and then we've actually hue shifted more to red. Tends to make it look kind of cool. I like it. So play around with a bunch of different colors. Play around with a bunch of different colors for your lines. And then you will be ready, ladies and gentlemen, for some overpainting, because we're going to go here. This is where we're going to go next. And yeah, let's just go get into that. So that ends the basic tutorial today. We'll probably go more into overpainting next week, because I still have some stuff to do with this. You might look at it and say it looks nice and all that, but there's still a lot of, like, I got to clean up the hands and like extra stuff down here. But let's go ahead and get into the time lapse once again. Get it back into time lapse, and let's talk about overpainting. Let's talk about the philosophy of overpainting and why it relates to the animation cell technique. Okay, so now that we've done all that, now that we have created lines that we liked, we have sketch lifted those lines, and now we're able to place colors behind it. And on top of that, we've added in the beginnings of our shading, and we've gotten a basic look for what we want. Now we can then begin to, we've been working behind the lines up till now, right? So you have our lines and we've been working behind the lines. Now it's time to work in front of the lines, basically creating a sandwich. I guess you could call this the sandwich technique. The full technique, the full book is the sandwich technique, but the beginning is the animation cell. Okay, so now what we're doing here is, if you look specifically down here, group 3, that's basically all the work that I've done up until now. And now I'm working with one layer at a time. And this one is called OP for overpainting. Also, it is very overpowered, yes. But I just work one layer at a time. And you'll notice every now and then I'll create a new layer that'll kind of just go above it, and then I'll kind of merge it back down. Create a new layer above it, and merge it back down. And what I'm doing every time that I do this is I'm trying something new. With either the face or a part of the hair, just any part of the drawing. I'm changing something, and then I put it on a new layer. That way I can click it on and click it off and just basically compare. I can compare the differences, because it is amazing how much a tiny change, specifically in the face, like with the eyes and the eyebrows, it will completely change the expression. It will change the character, and you want to be very careful. You want to be very careful at this point, because it is a delicate dance of trying to refine your character without completely redrawing the face and changing it into someone else, changing it to somebody, changing it from the original vision, right? You're trying to hang on to that original vision. We'll get more into that in just a moment. So another thing that I really liked about this part is that we were adding some reflected light, to the side of the face, to the miraculous boobies, right? We got to make those look good. That's the most important part, right? Focal points, ladies and gentlemen. But that's another lesson for another time. So, in fact, I have given lessons on that, but we should do another boobies tutorial. That'd be good, because I have learned more about them since, what was that, like? It must have been like 2 years ago that I gave the last one. It wasn't even that good. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So the reflected light in this piece is really nice, because it truly allows us to really round the forms here, because everybody can look at this and say, oh, okay, well, the light is clearly, there's a main light source coming from the front, and that's lighting everything, the planes that are looking at us, right? And that's what we need to talk about, because you might say, okay, well, how do you know that? How do you know to put the light there? How do you know how to shade that piece? And that's with the planes, okay? So that gives us some information, right? But then adding in the reflected light, or rather secondary light source, which you can see right here along the cheek, that allows us to continue rounding the piece, rounding the form rather, rounding the face, rounding the body, rounding all the forms in our piece here. And I really, really like that. I really like that a lot. And now you can see that we are basically getting to where we were now. And I totally fumbled around. I totally tried a bunch of different colors for this jacket. I could not make up my mind. But eventually I just ended up going to the green because I just felt like it really mixed really well with everything else. It just looked good. The original one, oh yeah. For those of you who haven't seen the original Nuclear Girl, that's the most important part. She is right here. Original Nuclear Girl had this amazing green, or gray jacket, although it does kind of have a green tinge to it. But yeah, I so badly wanted to, like, originally when I started this, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to keep this costume. I'm going to have to change it. It's going to, like, this looks too silly. This would not work. But actually, like, translating it over to a more realistic model, I think worked pretty well. I like it a lot. It's still, like, sexy, but, like, it looks a little bit more believable, right? Without being, like, too pandery, too gratuitous, right? Too gratuitous. All right, so let's continue with this, and then we're talking about planes as a little bit of a teaser for what we're going to do next week, which is going to be, I totally forgot what I was going to do next week. I think we're just going to talk about overpainting. I don't know, whatever. We're going to talk about planes, talk about how I actually light this thing, and then we're going to end today's show. We're going to end it. Yes. And yeah, the other reason why I like overpainting stage is because you can really get in there. You can really get in there and start adding, like, those tiny little details. Like, if you look at the side of her nose and the face, there's, like, these little tiny, like, dots, right? I imagine there's just, like, a part of her skin, or, like, a shiny part of her skin. It just, like, picks up a little bit of light and just makes it look really shiny. Makes it look organic. And I like doing stuff like that. It's really nice. And I'm still studying how to make really good looking skin, as you can tell. And this is a good project to do so, right? And it's really nice that it's actually, like, my own project. I love having time to actually do my own projects and revisit my old characters, like my own, original characters, but they're not anything that crazy, you know? But actually, speaking of that, there is something that is always going through my mind whenever I'm creating these characters, whenever I'm creating my own characters, or rather revisiting my old characters, because if you look at the old Nuclear Girl, there's nothing really that interesting about her. There's nothing, it's like a blonde anime girl with a gun, right? And so I wanted to have something that would really bring this Nuclear Girl forward, make her iconic, and make her look really cool, while staying true to the original. So I decided, you know what? I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to darken her skin. I'm going to darken her skin and make it more tan, and then have a cool contrast between her skin and her hair. And then maybe we can also add, like, this army paint beneath her eyes. And what was the other thing? There was something else that I wanted to do to make her super iconic. But that's what we started with. But it's just like something as simple as that. Something as simple as, okay, this is the army girl with the platinum blonde hair and the tanner skin, or the more tan skin, and the army paint. You know, just slight little modifications. Can really make a big difference. So much better than what we had before, at least in my opinion. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. So that's going to end today's time lapse, and let's talk about planes. Let's talk about planes, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final thing, a little teaser for next week. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this. And let's talk about that. Okay, so basically I'm going to teach you guys a little secret. I'm going to expose a secret of how I like to color everything. Okay, and that is front ambient lights. And that is basically what's happening right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, and most importantly, right there. Okay, so you look at this and you say, wow, this is so nicely lit, Keenan. Or at least I hope that's what you're saying. And you say, how do you know how to do that? How do you know how to do that? All right, and the secret is planes. Planes, ladies and gentlemen. So, and you might ask, well, how does that help, right? I just leave you with that. It's like planes, and then I just end the show right there. Okay, so let's talk about this. So remember how I was talking about how the forms of the face, right? There's things that are happening with this face. If we were to draw like a grid, right? If we were to turn this into a 3D model, right? We would see grid lines going along this face. And any of these, I guess you could call them polygons, any of these polygons that are facing your direction, that are facing directly at you, basically you're seeing them flat on, that, ladies and gentlemen, those areas are what is going to send the most light back at you. It is reflecting light back into your retinas, okay? So, yeah, if we were to just continue this whole grid, you know, kind of down like this. Let me draw an area where it's actually rounding so you can actually get the hang of it. Okay, so over here, you know, the blocks would be all like skinny, right? Because it's rounding. The face is rounding and going back this way. See, but right here, I mean, this is kind of a terrible example, but you can kind of see what I'm saying, okay? So you want to think about all the planes that are facing directly towards you, okay? And those areas, quite simply, are the ones that are going to send the most light back to you. And that's why in all of these areas, these polygons are sending light back to you. These polygons are sending light back to you. That polygon is, this polygon is, because see the rounding? Look at which one is facing right at you. And then, oh, if that didn't do it, this will definitely do it. Okay, so think of this boob. It's just a sphere, right? It's a sphere. I mean, it's got a little bit of weight to it. Obviously, it's not a perfect sphere because, fortunately, boobies do not work that way. But let's go ahead and draw in the polygons, okay? This one will teach you perfectly. Oh, those are some good-looking polygons right there. Oh, man, awesome. Okay, so see what I'm talking about here? So any of the areas that are facing straight at you, those are the areas that will send light back. Light back. We're talking about here and here. And then as it falls off, it gets darker. As it falls off, that's the second part. As those polygons turn away from you, they get darker. And these are the ones that I'm talking about. Over here, let's use another color. These polygons, as they begin to turn away from you, they get darker. Turning away from you, get darker. See? That is my shading technique in a nutshell. But then we have another thing that happens, and that is reflected light. Because do you notice right here, if you see this, okay, so you have, new layer. So you have bright spots, and then as those forms turn, we've learned that it gets darker, like in this area, but then it's getting lighter right here. Why does that happen? Well, that's because we have a secondary light source. We have a secondary light source over here that is shining and is going to now begin lighting the shadows. It's going to begin lighting the shadows on this side. So what you have is basically you have lightness moving to darkness, moving back to lightness. And keep in mind, we're using a desaturated color here as well. It's a desaturated. So, and this goes into a whole other thing with like skin, right? Basics of skin that I like to think about is the light parts are desaturated. Then as you move towards your shadows, look at this. We started up here, then we moved. We moved down and to the right, and that means we darkened and saturated. And then as we get to the deep shadows, we're eventually going to just kind of go straight down, right? We're not saturating anymore, very slightly. So you want to think about it as desaturated, moving down to saturated. And then eventually with our reflected light, we've moved back to desaturated. Isn't that interesting? So it's almost like this weird boomerang effect that we're creating. And that is probably one of the nicest transitions that you can see in your pictures, right? Desaturated, saturated, back to desaturated. But that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother time. This was just meant to be a teaser for what we're going to be doing next week. But I hope that gets you guys excited. Hope that gets you guys excited for what we're going to do. And in the name of Nuclear Girl, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. So thank you guys for joining me on YouTube. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. Before we go, I do need to say thank you to my amazing sponsors, Laura Bashir, David Chiariello, and of course, Captain Big Butt. And I changed your sleeves. Oh, your sleeves are looking so nice and red, Captain Big Butt. And your eyes are still looking creepy, but a little bit better than they used to, right? A little bit better. All right, and of course, my patrons of the past, my sponsors of the past, I'd like to thank them as well. Without them, I could not do this show quite as easily. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. Oh yeah, and speaking of sponsors, if you would like to sponsor the show and also, or just support it in any way, then just go ahead and click this picture right here. Click on Nuclear Girl because you can go to Patreon. You can support the show. And I just realized I was doing that entire last bit zoomed in. Whatever. Oh, wait. Oh, man, that actually might be really bad because... Shoot. Okay, well, I'll watch it. If it's good enough, I'll still upload it. But anyway, if you want to get to the PSD, then just go ahead and click on Nuclear Girl right there. You can go to Patreon, support the show, and download this PSD, as well as all the other PSDs from the past. You can have a good time with that. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and end it. So you guys take care, and I will see you next week. Until that time comes, you guys stay awesome. See ya.